In the places humanity abandons, something remains. Waiting, watching, remembering. What secrets lie truly forgotten? Urban exploration. Urbex. A practice that attracts thousands of adventurers in search of forgotten history, decadent architecture, and the thrill of the forbidden. Armed with cameras and flashlights, these explorers delve into abandoned hospitals, ruined factories, forgotten tunnels, places where time abruptly stopped, leaving behind echoes of past lives. But there is a fine line between the excitement of discovery and the terror of finding. Because some places aren't as empty as they seem. Tonight, I bring you 3 stories that cross that line. 3 true stories of explorers who found something they weren't supposed to find. Something that marked them forever. This is the Veil of Abandonment. March 2019. Riverside State Nursing Home. For nearly a century, this complex housed thousands of psychiatric patients. Experimental treatments. Lobotomies. Electroshock therapy without anesthesia. The walls of this place absorbed decades of human suffering. It closed its doors in 1987, leaving behind a dark reputation and rumors of inhumane practices that never came to light. For Marcus Chun and his team of 4 explorers, Riverside was the holy grail of Urbex. The perfect place for their YouTube channel. They entered at dusk through a basement window. Everything seemed normal at first. The typical hallways with peeling paint, rusty wheelchairs, medical records scattered on the floor. But when they reached the 3rd floor, the high-security patient wing, something changed. Marcus was the first to feel it. A pressure in his chest. The undeniable feeling of being watched. He turned his camera toward the empty hallway behind him. Nothing. But then, everyone heard it. Whispers. Not one. Dozens. Overlapping voices, forming an incomprehensible chorus that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Sarah, a team member, began recording with her phone. In the audio, which was later uploaded online, single words in Old English can be heard. "Help me make it stop. The doctor is coming." They decided to follow the sound. Mistake. Whispers guided them to the old hydrotherapy room. The door was closed, but they could hear clearly now. They weren't whispers. They were pleas. Marcus pushed the door. The room was empty. Completely empty. But the whispers continued. Louder. More desperate. And then, they all felt the same thing at the same time. Invisible hands touching their shoulders, their neck, tugging at their clothes. The temperature plummeted. Their breaths turned into clouds of steam. Marcus's flashlight went out. In the pitch darkness, they heard footsteps approaching. Heavy footsteps. Something metal dragging against the ground. They ran. All 4 of them. Without looking back. Stumbling over debris, banging against walls in the darkness. Whispers chased them, turning into screams. Hundreds of voices, shouting in unison. They left the way they came in and didn't stop until they reached the car. When they reviewed the footage that night, they found something that no one remembered recording. The exact moment Marcus's flashlight went off, his camera automatically continued recording in infrared mode. And he caught something. Figures. Translucent silhouettes of at least 20 people standing in a circle around them. Motionless. Watching them. Marcus suffered panic attacks for months. Sarah developed chronic insomnia, terrified of closing her eyes and seeing those figures again. 2 team members have permanently retired from urban exploration. Skeptics argued that it was carbon monoxide poisoning, mass hallucinations caused by mold spores, or simply group hysteria. But the video is still there. For anyone who dares to watch it. And Marcus swears that, on silent nights, he can still hear them. The whispers. Calling him back. Beneath every city lies a world no one sees. Kilometers of tunnels, pipes, interconnected basements, and forgotten spaces built layer upon layer over centuries. In 2021, a group of explorers known as the Mole Crew specialized in these subterranean spaces. Their leader, a Urbex veteran named Dmitry Volkov, had mapped entire swathes of his city's subsurface. But in August of that year, Dmitri found something that wasn't on any map. A sub-basement. 3 levels below an abandoned downtown commercial building. A space that, according to official construction plans, simply shouldn't exist. Dmitri and 2 companions descended a seemingly endless service staircase. The air grew denser and more polluted with each level. When they reached the end, they found a long hallway with doors on both sides. All of them closed, except for one. The room was small, rectangular. The walls were covered with strange symbols etched into the concrete. Not modern graffiti. These were old, worn for decades, maybe more. In the center of the room was a metal table, and on the table, objects. Half-burned black candles. A ceramic bowl filled with a dark, thick liquid that smelled of oxidized copper. Black and white photographs of faces staring directly into the camera with blank, inhuman expressions. But the most disturbing thing was on the back wall. A mural, painted with what appeared to be dried blood. It depicted humanoid figures with elongated limbs, crawling from cracks in the earth, reaching upward toward a city drawn above them. And beneath the mural, written in a language no one recognized, were words repeated over and over, covering every available inch. They rise when we forget. They rise when we forget. They rise when we forget. Dmitri photographed everything. His instinct told him they should leave, but curiosity won out. He checked the other rooms. One was full of cages. Small cages. Too small for an adult human. Another contained a diary. The entries dated back to 1952. They spoke of an experiment, of keeping them asleep, of the price of silence. The last room had only one thing, a staircase descending even deeper. And from below, a sound rose. Scratches, like nails against rock. Dmitri shone his light down the stairs. The steps disappeared into total darkness. The scratching continued, rhythmic, patient. And then they stopped. Absolute silence for 3 seconds. Then, a sound none of them would forget. Breathing. Heavy. Wet. Like something with its lungs filled with fluid, struggling to inhale. And it was going up. The 3 of them ran, stumbling on the steps, using the walls to propel themselves upward. Their breathing followed them, quickening, now accompanied by the sound of something heavy dragging rapidly across the concrete. Dmitri looked back once with his flashlight. A shadow. Huge. Moving in a way that wasn't entirely human. Climbing the steps using 4 limbs. They left the building and sealed the entrance with debris and metal plates they found. 3 days later, Dmitri returned with construction equipment to permanently close the access. But when he arrived, someone had already sealed the sub-basement door with fresh concrete. From the inside, the diary Dmitri took was analyzed by a historian. The entries spoke of a secret Cold War project, experiments on prisoners, attempts to create something. The project was abruptly cancelled. The subjects were contained in the depths. The last entry simply said, "If anyone reads this, don't come down. They didn't die. We just put them to sleep. And hunger eventually awakens everything." Dmitri never explored underground spaces again. And if you ever find yourself in a basement that seems deeper than it should be, with hallways not shown on the floor plans, turn around. Some things were buried for a reason. The Blackwood Textile Mill. Built in 1923 on the outskirts of Pennsylvania. For 50 years, it employed over 1,000 workers, producing textiles for the nation. It was also the site of 3 documented workplace deaths and dozens of serious accidents. The conditions were brutal. The 16-hour shifts. The machinery lacked adequate guards. It closed in 1975 when a fire destroyed half the structure. Officially, the fire was an electrical accident. Unofficially, some say it started on the night shift when only 5 workers were present. 3 of them never came out. October 2022. Emma Rodriguez and her team of paranormal documentarians chose Blackwood for a Halloween special. They were professionals. High-quality recording equipment. EMF meters. Audio recorders. They weren't teenagers looking for cheap thrills. They entered at 11 p.m. By midnight, they would be running for their lives. The main production floor was vast. Endless rows of rusty weaving machines, pulleys suspended from the ceiling, broken windows that let in the moonlight. Nothing unusual happened during the first hour. They picked up a few anomalous EMF readings, but nothing conclusive. Then, at exactly 11:47 p.m., all the EMF meters went off simultaneously, and the machines began to move. Not lit, not powered, but moving, slowly, as if invisible hands were operating the controls. Emma kept the camera steady. Her cameraman Jason did the same. They had two angles recording. The pulleys began to rise and fall. The looms began to weave air. The metallic sound filled the space, echoing against the corrugated metal walls. And then they saw it, at the back of the production floor, next to the largest machine. A figure, a man, standing, completely motionless, wearing old work clothes, a rough cloth shirt and trousers with suspenders. His face was melted, like molten wax. One side was almost normal. The other was burned tissue and exposed bone. He looked at them, directly into the camera, and he raised an arm slowly, pointing towards the ceiling. Everyone followed his finger. Above them, suspended from one of the pulleys, hung a human figure. Charred, carbonized, moving gently as if rocked by an invisible wind. Emma screamed. The figure from the production floor began walking toward them. Not running, walking with deliberate purpose. Halfway there, he stopped next to another machine, and another figure appeared. A woman this time. Her hands caught in the mechanism of a loom, dried blood running down her arms. Then another. And another. 5 figures in total. All different. All clearly killed in horrific ways. All walking towards the team. The video gets chaotic here. Emma's camera falls to the ground as they run. But it keeps recording. And capture everything. The 5 figures moving in formation. Not walking normally. Their movements are erratic. Puppets with broken strings. But fast. You can hear the shouts of the crew. The sound of the machines revving up. And beneath it all, a voice. A single male voice, repeating the same phrase over and over again. They didn't let us out. They didn't let us out. They didn't let us out. They managed to escape. All 5 of them. Without physical injuries. But none of them could process what they experienced in a normal way. Emma retired from paranormal journalism. She developed severe agoraphobia. The thought of open spaces paralyzes her. Jason had to be hospitalized 3 times for panic attacks. In therapy, he revealed that he still sees those figures. In supermarkets. In train stations. Anywhere with a lot of people. Standing in the crowd. Looking at him. Always with those wounds. Always pointing upwards. Skeptics tried to discredit the video. CGI effects. Acting. Fraud. But 3 independent video forensics experts analyzed the footage. None found evidence of digital manipulation. The figures are there. In the video. Moving. Interacting with the environment. And most disturbingly, when the face of the first man, the one with the melted face, was enlarged, a specialist in historical records was able to identify him. Thomas Whitmore, Blackwood factory worker, reported missing after the 1975 fire. His body was never found. The other 4 figures matched the descriptions of the other missing and documented dead. The Blackwood factory is still standing. No one has entered again since that night, but those who live nearby report sounds. On windless nights, the squeal of machinery. The sound of production, as if the night shift never ended, as if they were still working, forever. 3 places, 3 teams of explorers, 3 encounters that defy rational explanation. Riverside Asylum and its eternal whispers, the nameless subbasement and what slumbers in its depths, the Blackwood factory and the workers who never left. Different places, different entities, but one common thread. These spaces aren't empty. They're not dead. Abandonment does not mean absence. Sometimes, it means something was left behind. and that something is waiting. Have you had your own encounter during an urban exploration? Have you seen something you can't explain? Heard something that shouldn't be there? Leave it in the comments. Share your story. It might be part of our next episode. Because at Untold Nightmares, we know that the truth is more terrifying than any fiction. Before you go, think about this. How many abandoned places are there in the world? Thousands? Millions? How many of them were left behind in such a hurry that no one stopped to make sure they were really empty? And if you ever decide to explore one of those places, when you find yourself in that dark hallway with your flashlight flickering and you feel that chill run down your spine, that primitive instinct that tells you you're not alone, are you going to look back? Or are you going to run?